Hey guys, Chip here, and recently I got a request from a KidOps user who wanted me to create a bunch of speaker inserts, but only using cutters. And I asked him for a list of some pictures so I understood what he was talking about. And here's all the pictures I got. And so there's a lot of different pictures here, as you can see. And I thought, better than creating these cutters, how about I just do a tutorial on how you can create one cutter and you can make it look like all of these. And so that's kind of what I'm going to try and do here. So here we are in a new scene. We got nothing in here other than we have some cameras and some lights, and that's really it. And so I'm going to start off by saying Shift Plane. I'm going to create the object that I'm going to cut into. I'll tab into that, hit the E, drop it down, tab out of it. Now, before I do anything else, I want to show you something. If I go into my face orientation, and of course you can get to that here as well, I just map it to a Q key. You'll notice it's all inverted. And when I do that, then when I actually add an insert to this inverted, let's show you what I'm talking about. So we'll take this simple hole, we'll add the insert. And you see it's actually adding it upside down. And that's not what we want at all. And that's because the faces are facing the wrong way in the target object. How do I fix that? It's really easy. Just tab into it, select all the faces, and under Mesh, we're going to go to Normals. And we can just flip them or recalculate outside. Either one will work. Now we're good. I'm going to turn that off and we're ready to get started. To create this speaker, one of the things that I want to do is I want to use modifiers. And by using modifiers, I can create one speaker that can be changed over and over and over again to create brand new and different speakers. So what I'm going to want to do is create a profile using a modifier. So let's start off by just saying Shift A, Mesh Plane. We're going to create another plane. I'm going to tab into that plane. I'm going to hit the 1 key, so now I'm in the Vertex edit mode. And then I'll hit the M key to merge them all at the center. So now I'm here. Now what I'll do is I'm going to actually go into local mode, / on the numpad. I'm going to go into the front view. So here's our front view. I will just extrude this, E to extrude. I'm going to pull it out to say right here. I'm going to set E and drop it down to something like this. And then I'm going to drop it to something like here, and then go up like this. And every time I do this, I'm basically just creating an E to extrude key. So I'll go here, 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 up, and then I'm going to say E, X, and with my snap, hold on, I'm going to go directly to here. I can make sure by looking at this item that that's set to the X on the 0. So if I didn't get quite there, I could just go over here and say 0 here. And then I'm going to tab out of this. And this is my profile that I'm starting with. And maybe that's good, maybe it's not. Heck, who knows? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll go to my modifier list. And I'm going to add what's called a screw modifier. And that's going to create this. And this is going to be the cutter for us. And as you can see, a lot of it's not quite right. So let's fix it. First of all, let's make our steps, instead of 16, let's make it 128. So now we have it much smoother. Let's calculate the order. We always want to calculate the order on this. So we're in good shape. And let's merge the vertices. So now we're in pretty darn good shape. The last thing we want to do is go here and say auto smooth this. And there we are. Go out of local mode, and then I'll tab, and you'll see that it's awfully small. So let's scale it, and let's just scale this whole thing so it's a little bit bigger. Something like this. So if I drop it in there, we're going to get something like that. Okay. With that set, now I want to go ahead and start to modify this so that it looks a little better. I'm going to go ahead first, and under Object, I'm going to say Apply Scale. So now we have this scale set to 1. I'll go back into my local mode, hit the 5 key to get out of perspective, the 1 key back to our front view, and then we'll tab into this. And now we're tabbed into, we're seeing everything. And what I really want to do is I want to go back into my modifier list, and I want to hide this in the vertex mode. And I do that by clicking here. Okay, next, while I'm in the modifier list, I'm going to add another modifier. And this one's going to be a bevel modifier. And I'm going to move that up above the screw modifier. And with that set, we're going to basically say we want to bevel only vertices and we want to use weight to bevel. So those are the key things here. And then I can set this to be, let's set this to be, I don't know, 0.5. It doesn't matter because I have this clamp overlap on here, so we're in pretty good shape there. It won't let us to go higher than what it would normally do. So I'm going to take this. I know this is going to be the biggest radius that we're going to have, because what we want to do is want to create this center area, which is kind of like a dome. So I'll take that, and I'm going to go over to my bevel weight in my item, and I'm going to make that 1. So that's 1. And as you can see, it kind of goes directly across. And so let's give it about 12 segments. So we'll give it 12 segments. So there's our dome right there. Now the rest of this we're going to want to, be careful about. So I'm going to take these two here, and I'm going to adjust the mean bevel weight. Now notice as I get farther, look what happens to our dome. It's not accurate anymore. So I need to I don't want to adjust this so much that it affects our dome. So I'm going to do something like this. And if I look at it, it looks pretty good. I'm going to go over here and do the exact same thing. I'm going to grab it and move it just a little bit like that. And that's really all we're going to do. So now that we have that done, we tab out and we see that we have this negative shape. We're going to get out of local mode, and I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to bring it down till it's down inside here. And then I can just go in here and say I'm going to add a modifier to this and call it a Boolean as a difference. I'll just select on this object. Oops, nothing happens. That's because this object is set to viewport display to show textured, and we want it to be a wire or we want it to be bounce. So there we have it. That's wired and that's bounce. And also I want to make sure that this thing selected does not render. So when we do a rendering, we don't want it to render. So now we're in pretty good shape. Let's take a look at how we make this so that it will actually apply correctly to the target object. I'm going to select it and I'm going to move it down until I see exactly where I want it. So that's where I want it. So that's where I want the 0, 0 to be for that object. If I go into wireframe mode and 5 and 1, you'll see that our 0, 0 is here, but I really want it up here. So how do we do that? Well, that should be easy. We're going to say set origin to 3D cursor, and there we have it. So now we're going to know we're going to set it in the right spot. Let's go back to a material preview mode. It's all white, so I'm going to take this box, I'm going to go to my kit ops, and I'm using my EV material system. So I'll just go to wood, and I'm going to grab this plywood, and I'm going to add a material onto that. So now we have plywood, and our speaker's plywood also. So I'm going to select our cutter, which is this object right here, and I'm going to give it a material too. So I'll go to other, and I'll select the rubber, and I'll add that material, and nothing happens. And that's because even though that material is on this cutter, it's not being transferred to our target object. So I'll select our target object, I'll go into materials, I'm going to add a new material, and I'll say, let's make it CW rubber, and now there we have it. So now we've created a pretty nice example of a speaker. Now, what if we want to change this? Let's say we want to change it so that it doesn't have so deep of a throw. Well, that's easy. We'll just go in here, we'll go into our local mode, we'll go to our front view, we'll tab into it, and we can just take all of these vertices here, and I'm just going to stretch them so that they're not as tall in the Z direction. Now I want to keep these under the surface. Remember, this is the surface that we're cutting into. I need to keep these under there so we're going to see those radiuses show up. So I'll tab out of that, I'll go back into our main view, and now we see that in the Z direction it's a little bit thinner. And so let's take this now and let's go ahead and create an insert with it. So I'll hit this create insert button, and there it is, and it's actually set in the right spot. And I'm going to name the insert speaker, and I'm going to save it to let's save it to here, to this test folder, save the insert. And then I want to basically say, let's go ahead and render a thumbnail. But first, I'll say camera to insert, hit the 0 key. Actually, that probably looks pretty good if I hit the 0. Yeah, that looks actually pretty good. Now I could, of course, go into our factory floor, add a new material, and then we'll name it rubber so that we show the rubber in there. And I'm going to say render thumbnail. close factory scene. And now I'll take this, delete it, and with my cube selected, I'll go into my speaker and let's make it small, and we'll just add the insert, and we'll put one here, and we'll go ahead again and add the rubber. Now notice that this rubber is different, so I'm going to delete this one, and with this selected, I'll add this rubber 01. Whoops, undo. I'll go ahead and add a new material and make it the one that we just inserted, which is rubber 01. And there we have it. And because we're in smart mode, I can select the insert and I can say X, Y, and I've put it all over. And now you can see that we have our own little plywood boombox. So I hope this helps. A quick example of how to use cutting inserts to create quick objects in KitOps, as well as how to use different materials and display them correctly inside of Blender. Thanks for watching. See you online.